So good morning. I thought I'd get freshened up before I started this session, but it didn't work, obviously. This next piece is about parenting kids and grandkids stories. It is about as long in terms of pages as the previous section on my growing up. So it'll take a little over an hour. So I set the timer for half an hour. So I cut it off and don't just let it run and run. Here we go. For me, money has been a tool. Not necessarily to be invested, but to fund our experiences, not just mine. I have famously said to you guys, the biggest drop in lifestyle in history will be when our kids move out. I hope that's not the case, but we did live it up. Hey! God, sorry. I had a flashback to when you were kids. I suppose you got treated a little better than I did when you were kids. Maybe had a little less fear of me. But when it came to discipline, I certainly could have done better. I remember slapping Adam and Ryan and never Eric. I think Eric was a learner. Beyond that, I didn't use belts or anything. I don't think the beatings were real regular. And as far as I recall, I think they were almost exclusively when you did or said something to Sherry. So, could I have done better at that? Yeah, no question. I had some famous draconian punishments. Ryan didn't wear his retainer after he got his braces off. When I found out about it, no football for him. Adam, for months, wanted a bunny rabbit. We got him one for Christmas, and within, 2 weeks, he had done one more stubborn thing that ticked me off. Goodbye, bunny. You three were talking after lights out one night, which I suppose it did dang near every night. I came in, told you to shut up and go to sleep. 5 minutes later, I hear you again. Shut up and go to sleep. 5 minutes later, I hear you again. All right, let's work on going to sleep. I took you and put you each in your own bathroom, turned the light off, and shut the door. So you were in the pitch black in a little big space. Excuse me, it didn't take long for wailing to begin. And, I let you out in a few minutes, but I think I had made the point, but from your ends, I'm sure, the minute I'd left the room, you started talking again. and I'm sure you have many more you can remind me of. Something I've been famous for with you is seeing a sign in the distance, commenting on it before we get to it, and then pointing out, oh, look, there's a billboard that says the same thing, like there will be a personal injury billboard up ahead, and I'll say, boy, you know, as I'm driving along here in the car, I'm thinking about you do get in crashes. I have no idea who I would call in that situation. Oh, look, Jimmy Johnson, personal injury lawyer, and here's his phone number. God, I did that a lot. I watched all three of you birthed as a result of my favorite hobby. Adam had an interesting moment when he popped out. I was offered the job of umbilical cord cutter. I accepted. Doc clamped it high and low and gave me the 10 snips. I proceeded to aim at a spot on the cord half an inch above his higher clamp. Well, Doc about peed. Had I cut it there, spurting blood would have ensued. A rookie mistake. And a weird related story. I was watching The Good Doctor on TV in early December of 2022. The focal point of that episode was birthing via C-section, sextuplets, 6 kids. As the first one popped out, I had a flashback to Adam's birth. I remembered Sherry bitching about the pain, rightfully so, and me giving a whoop when he came out, which was recorded on a cassette tape since lost. And hearing his first cry and counting his fingers and toes and him being handed back to Sherry to put on her ample chest, well, the rest is true anyway. And I completely lost it. I sobbed, I screamed. After a while, I realized I wasn't gonna stop, and I didn't. For an hour and a half, while I was in the midst of it, I made a cell phone video. Heck, I had nothing else to do until it stopped, which felt like it could be a while. The video I kept is about a minute long. It's on my phone. It pretty well catches the angst I felt. Oddly, no one else wanted to hear it. Ryan, sorry. No particular birthing story with you. Yours kind of went the way it was supposed to. Wait, though, there is this. When you were only 2 weeks old, my buddy Bobby saw you for the first time and said, "Oh my God, is he gonna be trouble?" Prophetic. Eric's was particularly interesting. It was Sherry's third birth, so we expected he would arrive quickly. And he did. We lived in Pepperwood, 150th and Dodge or so. The birthing was scheduled at Methodist Hospital at 84th and Dodge, about 6 miles away. On our way, she was panicky that she was going to pop out Eric in the car. A cliche, but the truth. It almost happened. I didn't get below 90 miles per hour the whole way in. It took all of 15 minutes to birth you after we arrived. Adam's proud papa wanted to memorialize his birthday. So I put down a new concrete sidewalk square and etched his birth date into it. 2/25/82. That's right. 2/25/82. I think it's 5/25/82. Kari, is that correct? Yet another time that Sherry thought I was a dumbass. And she was right. If only she knew what was coming. I ran that old-timey cassette tape recorder during each of your births. So, it sucks that I can't find those cassettes. So, Sherry and I were camping with Adam in our first RV. It was an affordable, minimalist piece of junk, pop-up trailer with a leather topper. That'll tell you all you need to know, the leather topper. Sherry was holding him up during a diaper change, and he let fly with a stream of pudding consistency poo. It flew 6 feet. Blessedly, I was out of the way. He was dubbed Rocket Butt. Adam was in one of the first DARE programs in kindergarten at age 5. DARE, Drug Abuse Resistance Education. One night, I came home and he asked, "Daddy, do you know when you drink a beer, you're taking a drug?" Well, I must have listened. In the 35 years since, I've been drunk only once. I drink, you've all seen me, but normally 2, maybe 3 at a sitting. But I don't get drunk. And really doubt I ever will again. You guys remember trying to get me drunk on a cruise? I used to drink so much, like 15, 20 scotch and waters a night during the week. I don't know, my body developed a tolerance for it or something. We fed me 10 scotch and waters in an hour on a cruise. Absolutely no effect, or discernible effect. As I've said, God had a plan for Phil. One year, Ryan came to take your kids to work day when I was a CPA. He was with me for the morning. At the end of the 4 hours, his comment was, "You don't do anything. All you do is talk to people in here, talk to people on the phone, and play golf." Well, yeah, it's been a wonderful life. When Ryan was 12, he and I went to the Bahamas to get him scuba certified. You can do that from age 12 forward. So he did his scuba certification dives there the day he turned 12. What do you mean spoiled? Probably the best scuba trip ever. Not because you were there, Ryan. We did a shark dive, which I still have on a DVD, or whatever preceded Blu-rays on a disc. We did a night dive, and we did a wreck dive to 110 feet. Possibly the highlight, though, while we were on one of the dives, he mooned a tourist submarine. Yes, he mooned a sub. Yet another indication he would be a pain in my arse and my hero. By acclamation, by all three of you, Sherry and me, best vacation ever. Bull Shoals houseboats. I enjoyed my swim trunks on my head and just floating with a life jacket on, and my song, Ending an Arm. I don't know that Sherry enjoyed those two things as much as me. I'm just not sure. Remember when the Lamos went with us and that miniature friend of Abby's came along? I remember some caring individual preparing a Kleenex box for her to sleep in. She cried. Aww. Remember when we moved, one of my faves, from Pierce Street at about 165th-ish and Pacific to South 159th Avenue overnight while you were out of town. We debate whether it was Di or Steph who picked you up and took you to Lincoln overnight, but it was one of those two. And when you came back, the next morning, Eric, I came up with some phony story. Me? Phony story? That we had a computer that was being repaired at this house, and we had to go pick it up. Well, Eric looked in the living room window as we walked up to the porch, and he said, "They have a dining room table just like ours." Yes, we had moved literally everything from Pierce to 159th Street while you kids were gone. No, no. Clearly one of our better ones. 159th turned into the famous boys' house. One day I wake up and I say, instead of moving you guys back and forth every 2 weeks, I'm going to keep this house, buy Sherry one, buy me one, which turned out to be on my favorite lake. And Sherry and I are going to move back and forth every 2 weeks. So you three stayed in the house. And by the way, I'll jump to the end. Eric, thank you. He came to me shortly after Ryan moved out and said, it's kind of crazy that you do this when I'm the only one here. So when did I have to stay here? So we moved to house number 2 on Timber Lodge Lake. Not a bad move, by the way. So you guys were in the boys' house. Sherry would be with you for 2 weeks. She and I would tag off in the hallway. I'd be with you for 2 weeks. Then she'd be with you. Then I'd be with you. And that way, we mitigated the upset to your lives. And this, while I was paying Sherry her child support, alimony, and boys' house expenses, makes as much sense now as it did then. This is the home of the Sweaty Tits origin story. At one point, when I say we, I use that loosely. I don't know that Sherry came up with many of these brilliant ideas. So we paved like a 30-foot by 30-foot concrete pad in the backyard and put one of these huge gorilla goals in it, had that concreted in, and created a hoops court for you guys in the neighborhood. And I remember a lot of games being played on that court, probably not enough to justify doing it. Quickie, we drove to Corpus Christi, Texas, and picked up Shitty, as Ryan named him, because he was a shitty little dog. Picked up a Schnauzer. A CPA client of mine, Boyd Lauritsen, told me about this breeder who had a line of Schnauzers that didn't bark. And Schnauzers are famous for their barking. Kind of unbelievable. Turned out to be true. So, Sherry and I are at the Scott Skyhawk dinner auction. They had from Steve Shanahan, the pro out at Shadow Ridge Country Club, where we belonged, tickets to the Masters. And it was 4 single day tickets, can't use more than 2 at a time. So you had day 1, day 2, 2 tickets, 2 tickets. To get those tickets, I did something that's pretty crappy that I do all the time at auctions when I want to get a particular thing. Going once, no, I haven't made a bid, haven't flinched. They get down to the very end. Going once, going twice, up, and I jump in. And the person who was expecting that sale to close in 3 more seconds would look daggers at me. So I got those tickets. I did the same thing at a Boys Town dinner auction to a priest who used to go to the Notre Dame versus Navy football game at Notre Dame every year until I came along. Back to that Masters trip. We took our RV, drove down there. Big Jack went, Adam, and Bob Thornburg, who I think we all know. Fabulous, fun trip. We played golf in Alabama on something called the Robert Trent Jones Trail. We had a little incident with Adam, shockingly. We were all on the tee box on, it might have been the first hole, I think it was. And he was loosening up to take some practice swings. Well, you take your practice swings aiming down the hole, not at the back of the tee box. Unless you're Adam Dawson. So he takes a practice swing aiming right at us. At least 2 bad things can happen. You take a swing and something happens with your club. Like the shaft breaks, the head comes off. Rare, but it happens. And why take the chance? Or, much more likely, you take up a little chunk of turf as you're swinging. You get a little deep, and now we have this mud and grass flying at somebody. So he took one swing, and I looked at him. He'd been golfing for several years. What are you doing? Stop. So he did what you do. He took another swing at us. Well, that was the end of his round for the day. I put him in the RV, said, we'll see you in 5 hours. During that 5 hours, the remaining 3 of us were astounded, and I was trying to figure out what to do next. I don't know if I made the right decision or not. What I was seriously thinking of doing was taking a detour to the Atlanta International Airport and flying his little smarty pants butt home before he saw the Masters, which he would have died for. That boy. Adam also had what I believe are called night terrors. The first time we were in a pitch black hotel room, he woke up and oh my God, he started screaming. I mean, blood curdling. I'm in a dead sleep. I wake up and I think, oh my God, somebody is in the room and they're knifing Adam. And it turns out it was just night terrors. He had a few more of those. Very exciting. Ryan, I'm sure you recall, we used to do Easter season rolls at St. Wenceslas Mass. I was lector, then I took on some role within this like mini play. Ryan was up there, and his favorite line was, "Father, here are the fire and the wood, but where is the sheep for the Holocaust?" I rented just ignore the beeper for a minute. I rented a 24-foot U-Haul after a huge wet snowstorm in October of some year, 2000 maybe. We used it to take down trees and limbs all over North Omaha. Free pickup. Got lots of thanks. Just not from you guys. Ryan and I, speaking of U-Haul, we just made a trip to Texas recently to pick up his 1983 Mazda RX-7. Well, it turned out to be kind of a junker, and the woman was lying to him, so no go. But we had 24 hours of nice chit-chat. Also, to continue the theme of Ryan U-Haul trips, we went to Texas, Austin, I assume, his first move from Omaha for scooters. I drove the U-Haul, he drove his car. And as I often say about scooters, FTFF. Yeah, a fave. I had 1,900 printed pictures digitized and gave each of you and Sherry a CD-ROM of them. Sherry was kind enough to share the $250 cost, since the pictures were of our family, her family, Sherry and me, etc. Phew! 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 I had taken the numerous hours to sort and categorize Cator guys these 1900 pictures, as well as preparing a 100-line index of them. And she wanted one of the discs, which she got after I had done all of the work, not asking for any assistance from her at all. She was only too happy to give me that $125 check for her share of the cost involved. Not. And no, you can't tell Mommy I told this story, though it is the truth. Back to scuba, I think Sherry was also a scuba diver. I don't think Eric ever got into that. I'm going to go reset the timer and I'll be back.